The Royal Diaries, Anastasia, the Last Grand Duchess, by Carolyn Meyer. Narrated by Renée Raudman. Copyright 2000 by Carolyn Meyer. This unabridged audiobook is published by arrangement with Scholastic Incorporated and was produced in the year 2006 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. January 3rd, 1914, Tsarskoye Selo. Well, that's over, and I'm glad of it. I hate dancing. I'd rather climb trees any day. My feet still hurt, especially the toe that clumsy Lieutenant Boris stepped on while he was trying to waltz. What an oaf. Hundreds of people attended the ball, all the court society of St. Petersburg, Papa says. If you piled all their jewels in a heap, they would weigh at least a ton. Mama had a headache and left before midnight. Our little brother, Alexei, is feverish again, and Mama wanted to be at home with him. I wish I could have gone with her, but that would have upset Grandmother. She is already annoyed at Mama, I think. Grandmother gave each of us a diary as a keepsake of the ball. Olga and Tatiana and Mashka, that's what we call our Marie, have begun pasting things in theirs. The invitation, the menu for the midnight supper, the program of music played by the orchestra, and my sister's dance cards signed by the officers who danced with them. I did not collect my dancing partner's signatures. It was very late when Papa had the sleigh drive us from Anichkov Palace to board our train for the ride back to Tsarskoye Selo. He sipped tea while my sisters chatted all the way home. I could hardly keep my eyes open, but pretended to be wide awake. January 4th, 1914. I've decided to write a play about the ball. I'm calling it the Otma Snowball, a jest in one act. Otma is the name we made up with the initials of our first names, Olga, Tatiana, Marie, and Anastasia. That's me, trailing along at the end, the youngest, the last of the Romanov sisters. Papa calls me Shvibzik, imp. When I told my sisters about my play, Mashka said, "What a good idea. We can perform it for Mama." Olga added, with that worried look of hers, "Promise you will make it nice, Anastasia." I promised I would. The main characters. Grandmother, also known as the Dowager Empress, wearing her diamond tiara and white brocade gown. Papa, also known as Nicholas Alexandrovich Romanov, Czar of all the Russias, in military dress uniform with lots of ribbons and medals. The Grand Duchesses, Otma. Officers from the yacht Standard. The scene, Grand Ballroom of Anichkov Palace, actually our library. The Grand Duchesses enter. They are dressed in matching gowns of white silk, embroidered all over with pearls and crystal beads, and satin slippers. My slippers pinch, but at least I don't have to wear a corset. This is because I don't have a figure, as Olga calls it. She's 18 and has one. So does Tatiana, who's 16, and Mashka, who's 14. I'm 12 and haven't yet got a bosom. When I say bosom, my sisters are shocked. Say figure, Anastasia, Olga corrects me. Proper ladies don't speak of bosoms. She blushes when she says it. But I'm not a proper lady, I remind her. I'm a Shvibzik. January 7th, 1914. Well, we did it. Mama's friend, Anya Virabova, came to our rooms after supper, and we rounded up Dr. Botkin and his son, Gleb and Baroness Buksahoeveden, and as many of Mama's ladies-in-waiting and Papa's gentlemen as could be found to make up the audience. There was no one to play the role of the Dowager Empress, of course, and so we put one of Mama's tiaras on an embroidered cushion on a gilt chair and pretended that was Grandmother. Papa put on his white dress hat with gold braid. First he bowed to Olga, and she curtsied, and then they danced while he whistled a waltz. Papa is the best whistler. Next, it was Tatiana's turn, and then Mashka's. I would have been next, but I decided not to play myself in this production. Instead, I borrowed a pair of tall black boots and a white jacket from one of the servants and took the role of Lieutenant Boris. Shura, my nurse governess, painted a huge black mustache on my lip. Alexei made me a cocked hat of folded paper. Then I ordered my sisters to dance with me while I pretended to stomp all over their feet. Mashka said I didn't pretend enough and that I really did step on hers, but it was truly not on purpose. It ended badly, because Alexei insisted that he was going to dance like Lieutenant Boris, and he got rowdy and crashed into Mama's table. Now we're afraid he'll get one of those terrible bruises and be ill again. January 9th, 1914. Foh! I detest schoolwork. Monsieur Gilliard, our French tutor, says that my efforts lack inspiration. What he means is, I am lazy. We've been working on the pluperfect tense, and what could be inspirational about that? I was supposed to write my sentences 10 times each, but I forgot a few of them, and instead drew a border of flowers around the paper. Monsieur Gilliard says that my flowers don't make up for lack of inspiration. January 10th, 1914. Just as I feared, Alexei is in bed again, his knee swollen up like a cabbage and paining him horribly. When Alexei is not well, our whole family suffers with him. We take turns sitting by his bed and reading to him. The servants tiptoe in and out, asking in whispers, "How is the Tsarevich?" And Mama always gives the report, "He seems a little better today, thanks be to God," or "He needs our prayers, don't forget him." Of course, everyone in the palace prays for Alexei, because he is the Tsarevich, the son of the Czar, and will be the next Czar of Russia after Papa. No one must know that he's so ill. It would alarm the people, Mama and Papa tell us. Alexei is a bleeder. That means he suffers from a disease called hemophilia. I probably can't spell that right. Mr. Gibbs, my English tutor, complains that I am a dreadful speller. Well, however it's spelled, it means that if my brother hurts himself, there's no way to stop the bleeding. A small cut on the skin isn't so bad. But if he injures a joint, or if something happens to make him bleed inside his body, then the blood is trapped. His joint swells up and hurts him, and he cries awfully. Then Mama turns pale and presses her lips together and begs us all to pray. There is no cure for this disease, and nobody knows what to do. Not Dr. Botkin, who checks all of us every day for signs of rashes and sore throats and such, nor Dr. Derivenko, Alexei's special doctor. The only one who can help Alexei is Father Grigory, the holy man who is Mama's friend. Mama sent a message to Father Grigory to come. Later. Alexei is much better. He always gets better when Father Grigory prays over him. January 11th, 1914. A sunny day, but so cold it makes my teeth hurt. Just as we finished our morning lessons, Papa came out of his study, where he had been working since breakfast, and announced that we must go ice skating. My sisters and I dressed in our warmest woolen skirts and thick stockings and fur jackets and ran outside with Papa. Alexei couldn't go, but he waved to us from his window on the second floor in the south wing of the palace. We ran to the lake in the middle of the Imperial Park, where the servants built a roaring fire near the warming hut. As soon as we'd strapped on our skates, Papa got us playing Crack the Whip. I challenged Mashka to a race and won. I couldn't beat Tatiana because she's the tallest and her legs longest. But when I grow more, I'll beat her with no trouble. Papa stopped us often to make sure our noses were not getting frostbitten. Keep moving, my dears," he called out. But we didn't need this advice, because to stand still in such weather is to freeze solid as an ice statue. Later, Mashka asked if I remembered the time I made a snowball with a rock inside and threw it at her, and it knocked her almost unconscious. That was wicked of her to mention it. Of course I remember. Olga Alexandrova, Papa's younger sister, scolded me that day until I cried. Papa never scolds me, and Mama hardly ever. It's only Aunt Olga who does. Yet she's my godmother, and I love her best, after Mama and Papa. But nobody in this dratted family will let me forget that stupid snowball. January 12th, 1914. Dr. Derivenko just finished examining Alexei and says he is improving, but cautions that he mustn't be allowed to run about and do dangerous things. Alexei loves to do dangerous things. So do I, but I'm not a bleeder. Girls are not, just boys who inherit it from their mothers. I once overheard Shura gossiping about it. It was Mama's grandmother, Queen Victoria of England, who passed it on through her daughter's blood to their sons and grandsons. I wonder if I shall pass it on to my sons. Not something I can ask Mama. January 14th, 1914. Alexei is much better, and we're all relieved. When he is ill, life seems to hang suspended, as though we have all stopped breathing. Then, when he's recovered, we start living again. It was Father Grigory who cured Alexei this time. Mama's sure of it. Gleb Botkin says that his father and Dr. Derivenko positively detest Father Grigory. They're convinced that he's a fraud. They even say that because he's a mujik, a peasant, he has no official family name, and that people in his village in Siberia call him Rasputin. It's an ugly name, meaning dissolute, that he has no morals. Mama would be very upset if she knew how much the doctors dislike Father Grigory, because she believes in him absolutely. So does Anya Virabova. She introduced him to Mama a long time ago when she heard about his miracles of curing the sick and hoped that he could help Alexei. And so we must all believe in him, even if he looks very strange. He is tall and strongly built. His hair is parted in the middle, long and dirty, and his beard is long and dirty as well. Mama says this is a sign of his humility, that he cares nothing for the things of this world. When he looks at you with those fierce blue eyes, it's like he's staring straight into your soul. It makes me shudder. He seems not to bathe much. He does smell rather awful, like Vanka, Alexei's pet donkey. But of course I can't say that to anyone. January 15th, 1914. I wonder if my sisters are writing in their diaries every day. Mashka scarcely bothers, I know that much. She's at least as lazy as I am, maybe worse. Papa and Mama think it's important for us to keep diaries. And Mama says we should also be using both old-style and new-style dates, as she does. This is because Russia uses the Julian calendar, and most other places in the world use the new Gregorian calendar, which is 13 days ahead of ours. For instance, today is the 15th of January in Russia, but in England and Germany, and lots of other places, it's already the 28th of January. How strange, and what a bother! But if Mama says we must, then we must. I'll start tomorrow. This morning, I crept into the big pears room. Papa calls O and T the big pear. M and A are the little pear. But I saw no diaries lying about. They must have hidden them. I thought of asking, but realized the question was fat-witted. They would certainly not tell me. So I've decided I must find where each one is kept. I'll take a look from time to time, just to make sure they're actually writing in them. I'm going to search for Olga's first, because she's the oldest and most likely to have interesting secrets, although what they could be, I can hardly imagine. We already know everything about each other. January 16th, January 29th, 1914. I suppose I'll get used to this eventually. How we do love our evening baths. Until a few years ago, when Olga begged Mama to intervene, we took cold baths every morning because Papa believes they're good for you. He has one every day as soon as he gets up, just as he has done since he was a boy. Fortunately, Mama took our side and convinced him that young ladies do not need to be brought up like soldiers, and so now we have the luxury of warm baths in our big silver tub before we retire. But that's the end of Papa's indulgence. The 4 of us sleep on camp cots. We must rise before sun-up and make our beds under the stern eyes of our maids, who tolerate no laxness, such as lumpy bed covers. Then we join Papa for breakfast. I should love to have chocolate and pastries, but no, it must be rye bread and herring, or it's not a good Russian breakfast in Papa's eyes. When Papa disappears into his study to work, he has much to do as the autocrat of all the Russias. My sisters and I go to Mama's boudoir, her private sitting room. She lies among the pillows on her chaise lounge and helps us decide how we should dress for the day, always in matching outfits. At precisely 9 o'clock, we march off to our classrooms and devote ourselves to French with Monsieur Gilliard, to English with Mr. Gibbs, and to Russian with Professor Petrov, and all that other nonsense about mathematics and geography. Botheration. January 18th, January 31st, 1914. I have found Tatiana's diary. She puts it under her pillow. I would never leave mine in such an obvious place. I keep it in my wardrobe beneath a pile of chemises. Got up at 7 a.m., had breakfast with Papa, went to Mama, who suggested the navy blue and white outfits for today, something cheerful to remind us that spring will come eventually. A looks so funny in hers, like a little barrel. I'm A, obviously. I do not look like a barrel in the blue and white outfit, and it's stinking of her to say so. But I do admit that it's not as elegant on me as on her, just because I'm still short. January 19th, February 1st, 1914. More from T's diary. She goes on about how much she enjoys her class with Monsieur Gilliard because she loves the sound of French language. What balderdash! Mama and Papa insist that we must learn all these languages as they did when they were young. When I first came to Russia to marry your Papa, I had to study very hard to learn Russian. Poor Mama! She still blushes whenever she tries to speak Russian, but we are careful not to tease her. Papa speaks Russian to us and English to Mama. Mama speaks English to us and sometimes German, which we are also supposed to be learning. Mama was born in Hesse-Darmstadt, part of Germany, but she says she is completely Russian in her heart and soul, and she wants no association with Germany, especially not with her cousin Wilhelm, who is the Kaiser of Germany, as Papa is the Czar of Russia. Cousin Willie's country is tiny, though, compared with Russia. Everything is tiny compared with Russia. Mama says she doesn't trust Willie. Later. I've gone through T's diary, and every single entry sounds the same as the one before. Exercise out of doors with Papa at 11, even though bitter cold. Lunch at 12 with Mama and Papa. Practice piano for 1 hour. Tea at 5, same as always. And so on. No wonder she doesn't bother to hide her diary. It's very dull. January 21st, 1914, February 3rd, 1914. Ha! Olga thinks she is so clever. I found her diary disguised as a book of devotions. Imagine that! She covered it with a jacket of black leather and put it on her shelf with her other prayer books. Her diary is slightly more interesting than Tatiana's. For instance, last week she wrote this disturbing entry. Poor Papa. He seems so weary these days, as though he carries a tremendous weight on his shoulders. Something is troubling him deeply. What can it be? I'll have to pay closer attention. January 23rd, 1914, February 5th, 1914. Tatiana is right. Tea is exactly the same every day. Always the same boring bread and butter and biscuits. Mama says that when she was a young girl spending her summers in England with her grandmother, Queen Victoria, the teas were much more interesting than ours. All sorts of little sandwiches and cakes. But Mama can do nothing about it, because teas are always done the same way in the imperial family. That's us. So, at exactly 5 o'clock, Papa walks into the library and butters himself one slice of bread, which he eats while he drinks 2 glasses of tea. We have our tea the Russian way. The samovar keeps the water hot, and the tea is served in tall glasses set in silver holders. Mama says that in England, tea is served in lovely porcelain cups with saucers. Papa reads his newspaper, and when he's finished, he goes back to his study, where lots of serious-looking men wait to see him. It must be difficult to be the most important man in the world, more important than any king, and certainly more important than Mama's cousin, Kaiser Willie. Later. Papa does seem distracted, and I think I know why. Papa loves Russia and the Russian people more than anything in the world, and most of them worship him. Last year, to mark the 300th anniversary of the Romanov reign, our family took a boat trip on the Volga River. The idea was to retrace the journey of the first Romanov czar from his home in the town of Kostroma to Moscow. As we were passing through a small village, I saw an old man fall down and kiss my father's shadow, because even the shadow of the czar is holy. But Papa has explained to us that not everyone adores him. Not everyone believes that he is the father of Russia and that Mama is the mother of Russia, even though she loves the Russians as much as he does. There are people who say the peasants are suffering and blame it on Papa. There are even some people who believe that others should share in the rule of our country. That's nonsense, of course. Only the czar must rule. Now it's Papa. Some day, years and years from now, it will be my brother, Alexei, the Tsarevich. This is God's will, so how could it be any other way? I think it's because he believes some people don't love him enough that Papa looks so sad. January 24th, February 6th, 1914. I'm writing this in Mama's boudoir next to the bedroom where she and Papa sleep. I'm supposed to be practicing French, but writing in my diary is more interesting, or plus intéressant, as they say. This is Mama's special place. Everything is mauve. Mauve walls, mauve silk curtains, the chaise lounge covered in mauve satin. Monsieur Gilliard says that lots of the words we use are French. This is his attempt to persuade me that there's some point to studying his favorite language. For instance, boudoir is French, and it means a place to sulk. I wonder if Mama knows that. And then mauve is also a French word for that pale bluish-purple color that Mama adores. And chaise lounge means long chair. So there. I've done a French lesson without even being told. My reply to all of it is "Phew," which is German for "Pho." Monsieur Gilliard should be proud of me. Later. 29 degrees of frost, but we went outside anyway. I nearly froze my fingers taking pictures of Alexei being pulled on his sled by Vanka, his donkey, and of my sisters. They refused to pose because of the cold, so it's just whatever I could catch them doing. January 26th, February 8th, 1914. Tomorrow we are going to a wedding in St. Petersburg, and today my sisters talk about nothing but gowns, jewels, hair, slippers, furs, and who will be there. The bride is my cousin Irina. Her mother is Papa's sister, Xenia. Irina is very nice, but she has 6 younger brothers who are the worst creatures in the world. The 2 oldest, Andrew and Theodore, are fairly civilized, but the rest are terrors. Nikita, who's a year older than I am, once accused me of biting him. This is definitely not true, because I would never get that close to him. January 28th, February 10th, 1914. What a splendid wedding! Irina was a beautiful bride, and everybody talked about her lace veil, which once belonged to Marie Antoinette, Queen of France. Papa gave her in marriage. He's probably practicing for the 4 of us. Irina's husband is Felix Yusupov, who Papa says is heir to the largest fortune in Russia. As a wedding gift, Papa gave them a bag of diamonds, which seems strange to me because Felix probably already has all the diamonds he wants. To my surprise, my cousins behaved like perfect gentlemen, but we left soon after the ceremony because Mama wasn't feeling well. The boys may have been up to their usual tricks as soon as we were gone. January 29th, February 11th, 1914. The court photographer is coming next week to do our portraits, and Mama is in a dither about what we must wear. Mama has our maids carry dozens of our best dresses to her boudoir, where they're draped over every chair, and she changes her mind from one minute to the next. The selections do not include that sailor outfit that Tatiana says makes me look like a little barrel. I shall never forgive her for that. I suggest peasant blouses, but Mama was appalled. That's one of her favorite words, appalled. I think she uses it about me more than about anybody else, except maybe when one of the servants does something wrong. I don't think Papa was appalled in the least. I think he rather likes the idea. He often wears embroidered peasant shirts and soft boots when he doesn't have to dress in a uniform weighted down with all those heavy medals and ribbons. If Papa is appalled by the things I do, he never says so. He just smiles with those crinkly lines around his eyes and calls me Schwibzik. Mama wants us to look like English princesses. The portrait of her grandmother, Queen Victoria, hangs in her boudoir. I often get the feeling that Queen Victoria is looking sternly at us Russian girls. She died before I was born, or I would probably have appalled her too. January 30th, February 12th, 1914. Now I understand why Mama is having our portraits made. Yesterday I was casually leafing through Olga's diary, the one that looks like a prayer book, and I came upon this. Papa says that Edward, Prince of Wales, is possibly interested in marriage. I told Papa that I am definitely not. A suitable husband! For once I'm happy to be the youngest. I will not have to worry about such things as husbands and weddings for years and years. Poor Olga. Too bad it's a secret, because I would love to torment her about it. February 1st, February 14th, 1914. Aunt Olga came out from St. Petersburg to spend the day with us, and we had an absolutely lovely time. After dinner, Alexei insisted that she must visit his donkey. Vanka was hitched to a sled to pull Alexei while we ladies rode in a sleigh. We stopped by the Imperial Zoo to say hello to the elephant that someone sent Alexei last year. Then we came back to the palace for tea. Tomorrow, Aunt Olga is taking us to St. Petersburg. February 2nd, February 15th, 1914, St. Petersburg. I love the city. As always, we went first to Anichkov Palace for luncheon with Grandmother. The food was very elegant, not at all what we eat at home. Papa prefers what he calls peasant food, such as sauerkraut soup and buratsky, little pies filled with rice and eggs. Mama doesn't eat much of anything, and only nibbles at whatever is on her plate, but Grandmother loves French food. Today we had veal kidneys with wine sauce in little pastry shells. I ate the shell and managed to hide the kidneys in my napkin. Each of us had a footman to serve us. I tried hard to make my footman laugh, but he would not. Grandmother presided at the head of the table, and each of us had to say something pleasant and polite, all while sitting up absolutely straight and using exactly the right fork and knife. When it was my turn to speak, I accidentally...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?